This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
I love getting together with her because she blends so many different things, from ingenuity, innovation, creativity, practicality when it comes to the design of your home or your living space or your workspace. Learned so much ever since we've gotten together. Today, I'm anticipating learning even more. And this topic could be perceived to be kind of boring, but it's not. When you look at it through the eyes of her and technology and what's available now. We're going to be talking plumbing today. Yes, plumbing. There's so many different things that you can do in terms of faucets, additions. Let's jump into it. She is the woman behind MSA Interiors, and they do designs for commercial spaces, hotels, some residences as well. Well, let's talk to her. Marcy Sagel back on the program. How are you doing today?
Good, thanks. Just, working through the snow. So I've lived in a lot of cold places, so this is kind of a very minor thing for me. It's just the city tends to shut down a little bit when we have this kind of snow.
I hear you loud and clear, and first world problems. It ain't that bad.
Exactly.
It's just deal with it. One extra thing, and whatever, we get through it. So I've been seeing so many different types of plumbing fixtures that are blended with technology. Could we start there?
Sure. So when we're talking plumbing fixtures, we're talking about typically your kitchen faucets, your bathroom faucets, your shower, diverters, shower heads, everything that you have. And there are so many things on the market. I really think that the best thing that people can do is to go to a showroom in your local showroom that carries lots of different plumbing manufacturers and go take a look at it, because they're actually showing you how it works. You can look at the water flow pressure. There's just so many things. You have apps now that can change out your flow rate, your temperature of your water. There's a million things you can get through technology. And but the biggest thing is really the look. You walk into a bathroom, or you have a picture of Pinterest that you've been collecting bathroom pictures. And when you're about to go redo your bathroom, the first thing that you really want to look at is, what is the look that I want? Do I want it super modern? Do I want it traditional? Do I want it transitional? Do I just want it clean and edgy? What are those different functions that you want it to look like? So aesthetically. So always start with the aesthetics. You're going to start with the aesthetics, and then you're going to decide, what exactly do you want in the shower or a bathtub? Okay. Different faucets and different fixtures for bathtubs and showers. They're very different. So you have a deck mounted, you can have a floor mounted fixture for a standalone tub. You could have just a very simple single faucet and shower head for the shower, but you may want to add some special things. Like you may want to add some body sprayers. You may want to add some temperature controlled diverters that allow you to turn your shower on at the same temperature that you like it every single day. Okay. Imagine that. Okay?
Dream come true. I can't
Super
tell
simple.
you.
Who wants to figure out the water temperature every time they go to take a shower?
Yes. You just turn it a little bit, and it's the difference of sometimes like 30, 40 degrees. Mm-hmm. And forever, I'll just turn it on, and I go, wait till it warms up. I come back, I get in, I'm like, ah! And then I got to take my foot and carefully just adjust it, because it's hotter on your body than maybe your foot. Yeah.
So, the diverters with the temperature gauge controls, you can actually set your temperature and it turns on at that temperature every single time. My biggest pet peeve is like in a hotel room, every single one's different. They're hard to figure out how to use some of them.
Yes.
Yeah. So basically you want something in your home that's really easy, really simple, but you also want to be able to add what I call a handheld. Okay. So let's say every house, if you have multiple bathrooms, you should have at least one handheld unit in your shower and or tub. And the reason for that is it's just a simple injury. Okay. So basically a broken bone or, had surgery and you want to be able to just like wash yourself without having to be completely soaked in water. So handhelds are great for senior and aging in place as well. So basically, if you have a handheld shower unit, you can put in a handicap seat or a bench for just someone that might be a little bit older that might want to just have a little bit more of a steady ability to have a shower. And I know this because I had to put one in my nephew who was injured's apartment that we were renting for him. We accommodated and made some, accommodations, handicap grab bars in the shower and in the bathroom, as well as a handheld unit, which was not in the unit to begin with. Very easy to add, and they were wonderful to work with. So we got those added. And that really helped him be able to shower in his apartment in an elevator building.
Not that we want to get stuck on trends, but just curious. Yeah. And I know this is big in hotels, maybe commercial buildings or apartment buildings, condos, things like that. But the open space shower, the days of the tub, kind of gone in my view. But what do I know? I don't do what you do. Is that what's happening right now? And if we're going to do a bathroom remodel, should we be kind of looking at that unless there's a reason you really want a tub?
So I love a tub. I like to take baths every day. That's kind of a preference. So if you're doing your residential bathroom, the key questions are, how many times do you take a bath? Okay, a month, a week, and you figure that out, because if you have a bathtub in a shower enclosure, which is the new trend, okay, you don't really need it there because it gets wet every single time you take a shower. And I don't know about you, but that kind of thing drives me crazy. I like things super neat and tidy. So I don't want my tub inside my shower unit. Okay. I'd prefer to have, that's the trend. I'd prefer to have a really large open shower and a separate tub. That's something I prefer, but that's not what everybody else prefers. So I think the trend is definitely to make one enclosure and put the tub inside of that enclosure. So,
I get you. And, as much as I think, it's great to have a tub, I haven't taken a bath in decades. And even 2 houses back, I had a stand-up and a jacuzzi in the same bathroom. Hey, fantastic. Great. I maybe used that jacuzzi maybe once over, I don't know, 10 years. Right. When my kids were younger, it was great to play in the water. However, this was my challenge. I had a newer water on demand water heater. So saves, a lot of money, replace the hot water heater, the big column stand-up thing with just this box on the wall. Fantastic. Except when you're trying to fill a big space, it would run out of hot water. So that was problematic there.
They're not large enough to accommodate that kind of system. So I know that for sure. But, what I love is I'm a bath person. I literally take a bath every single day.
Wow.
If you polled a number of people, I work out every day. So I pretty much want to it feels good. It's very soothing on your muscles. It feels good. So I actually like a bath, but, not everybody takes a bath. Okay. So a lot of people building a house or renovating a house will say, I don't need bathtubs because we don't use them. But guess what? If you have children, you do need a bathtub. You are going to bathe your children in a bathtub unless you're going to bathe them in a kitchen sink. When they're little, you're going to bathe them in a bathtub and put them in those little bath chairs that sit into the tub. And you at least need one tub in a house if you have multiple bathrooms. That's sort of the standard. So, but talking aesthetically, we have a million different finishes out there. And, you have everything. The standard stuff is the satin, satin chrome or a chrome, polished chrome. Then we have a polished nickel. Then we have what's called a lacquered brass, an unlacquered brass. And lacquered brass typically is a finish that never changes color. And an unlacquered is one that changes with the air. So it might turn green, or it has sort of a copper sort of components to it, where it changes with the element of water hitting it or getting cold or getting hot. So I have some lacquered finishes and some unlacquered finishes in my home. And of course, there's like the rose gold, and we have all of these a zillion different finishes depending on who the manufacturer is of the plumbing equipment. So
I'm seeing more and more gold silver combinations when it comes to anything metal. Is that a thing? Do you think it's going to continue? If so, and does it apply to bathrooms?
So it's definitely a thing. And they even have it with standard kitchen appliances like, a Wolf range. You have, different knobs that you can get. You can get the plain silver, you can get the black, you can get the red. Now you can get the gold. So yes, it is a thing that people are really mixing metals, and we encourage people to mix metals. So, when you're looking at the lighting, the plumbing, and the hardware that goes onto your cabinets, those are all things that you can mix and match if you want. You don't necessarily have to stay within one finish anymore. I do think there's a blending process that goes on. So I do like to see things kind of blended. So if you are going to mix the metals, take a look at how they all work in conjunction with each other, including the lighting and the hardware, and then make your choices.
What is the coolest, most unusual plumbing fixture for any application, any room that you've seen, let's say in the last year? Maybe you used it or you saw it at a show. Which one stands out for you?
So Callista, which is a higher division of Kohler, has a incredibly beautiful, artistic hand knobs that can be done in either a stone, an onyx, or some kind of marble. Okay, very high level, very beautiful. They come in a lot of different colors, and they're just beautifully done. And it looks like a piece of jewelry. It's really that nice. And it reminds me of the old school style, which used to be called like a Cheryl Wagner, which had the swans in the brass that were super high level from 50 years ago, where every high-end house had like a Cheryl Wagner faucet in it. Mm-hmm. So this Callista fixture, and some of the higher ends that we like to use are Waterworks, Callista, Roll. We like different companies that, California Faucets, which has a million different gold finishes, which has almost more gold finishes than anybody I've ever seen. And it gives you a good variety so you can mix and match all of your other things. I want a powder room to have handles on the faucet that are super high level looking. I want it to feel over the top and really well done and curated. And that's a great way to do that. And then when I get into the regular bathrooms, I want it to be more practical. I want it to be, your polished nickel, your, lacquered brass, something that's going to hold up, those kind of finishes. That's what I really want to see in the regular bathrooms. And then in the powder rooms and any of the guest bathroom finishes, I really want them to be higher level.
Do brands really make a difference? Should we make sure that we stick with the more known brands as opposed to, something from one of the other countries that shows up on the shelf? It's cheaper. Maybe it's got a little more technology to it.
Yeah.
Do the brands make a difference?
I consider there's like a range of like 10 or 11 different faucet companies or manufacturers that I like to use. And those aren't the Moen, Delta kind of faucets. They're more of the Kohler's higher level, Callista. Kohler also has some nice fixtures. And then I like things like Perrin and Roll, ROHL. I like the California Faucets. I like Waterworks for super high level. Those are like my higher end brands. And then when we get to the step down, I would say, then we're looking at the Deltas, the Moens, the Simmons, which we put in hotels, those kinds of fixtures, and the cleaner single faucet lines that we might put into a multifamily unit, which is a single hole faucet rather than a spread faucet. So those are some of the things that I think, we don't necessarily have to just stick to like the brands that you see in like the Lowe's and Home Depots. We can branch out. There's some really good faucets and manufacturing companies that have been around for a long time. And like you said, there's some overseas brands that have come here that are exceptional. Quality is really excellent, and don't be afraid to use them. And they give you a warranty. So
with the big box stores in general, and there's a place for everything. Do you shy away from them in general? And I'm not talking about buying name brands there, but more of their native brands. Do you kind of shy away from those?
So, I mean, they serve a purpose. People need to get a faucet and they need to get it now. They can go there. I typically, because I'm in the industry, I have a direct resource. I go directly, I order it, and then have everything ready to go so that when the plumber is ready to install, everything is ready. And there's documentation sheets or specification sheets, they're called, that come with every faucet. And every single one, you need that for the plumber. You don't want them trying to figure it out just because it's sitting there in the box. You really want that diagram. So it gives them all the information they need for installation. And I highly recommend that. So you can either get that out of the box, or you can go online and download it from the faucet specification number that you pick. So.
In my experience, moving into the last house, they redid everything. And it was great. I walked in, the kitchen was done, everything, had to change the paint a little bit. But they used a lot of the brands that come from the big box stores. Again, this is my experience. It wasn't the best quality. It was okay, but there were some challenges along with that. I'm grateful that it was all done, but if I would have done it again, I would have spent a couple of bucks and not use those. Maybe just one notch up if you want to keep it cost effective. What is the? Let's go to the kitchen. We're walking into the kitchen. What are some things that maybe we don't think of? I know that many people, especially those who cook, pot filler in back of the stove is like, gotta have it. Are there other things that we can look at?
So it's interesting that you brought the pot filler up, because I just had that conversation with a client whose farm we're rebuilding. It's a 130-acre farm. And, they wanted a pot filler. And so I asked him, I go, why do you want a pot filler? Are you going to use the pot filler? Because it's going to be on an outside wall. With let me see, 21 degrees here in New York. We're 7 today.
warning.
7. Yeah, this morning. So I said to him, you guys travel a lot. If you're not going to be using that, the water sits in the line. It sits in the line, and it's not really as clean as it should be if you're not going to use it on a regular basis. And not only that, is that it could be your first pipe that could freeze, even though they insulate it. And I don't ever really think any of the good plumbers have a problem with that. But, just always point that out. And I said, so yeah, pot fillers are great looking. And I like them because, it does save you from taking your pot off the stove. So it's definitely great for anyone that cooks. But again, it's that whole concept of, are you going to use it, or is it just really a look that you want? So
you brought up a point that I didn't think of, but it's a very strong one, that the water just sits in the line.
Yeah.
And, things could grow, whatever. How many times do you use that pot filler? Looks cool, gives it more upscale look, but how many times are you really using it? I have a friend who loves hers.
Yeah.
Maybe once a month, if that. And I always have this fear of water splashing everywhere. But, the other challenge here is when you blend the technology with the plumbing, and some of it is fantastic, as long as it's not on an outside wall. There's so many things you can do but you also need electric run for that. Even if it's low voltage, it's got to be in the wall, right?
100%. And you got to know that before you put the tile on the wall or put the countertop surface on the wall. So all of that stuff you look at in the specification sheets, and you have to plan out for what you need. So yeah, it's all intertwined with each other. So it's really important when you're picking things to make sure that you look at all of that. But the other thing is that when you buy a house, like you mentioned, and it might have some lighting or faucets or things of that nature, that even sinks that you're really not excited about, it's not super expensive. It's a very minimal cost for a major upgrade to put a new sink in, and to put a new faucet in. You know, when you're buying a house and you don't like some of those things, they're really easy to change out. Not necessarily the showers and those kinds of things, but you can update just about everything else that, you know, could make the bathroom or the kitchen feel a lot more your style, rather than just accepting the fact that there's a faucet there that you've been given in this house and you have to kind of live with it and you don't like it. So
Do you feel let's say you're in that situation, minimal expense, you know, I don't know what to put a number on it, under $1,000 for changing out the faucet, let's say in a kitchen, and then maybe changing the lighting a little bit. Lighting has become so I know we're bridging over from plumbing to lighting, but it's become so cost effective now that you can make a big impression for a little bit of effort and expense.
Yeah, just about everywhere in your residential house, inside and out, with lighting, plumbing, paint, you know, just simple things, hardware, changing out on cabinets, those kinds of things, just really, really simple things. You know, what I like to say is that, you know, even if your budget is $1,000, you can make some impact in your space. And really change out the functioning use of what you currently have. So I would say, really look at what really bothers you in whatever house you're buying, or, you know, don't do it to a rental, but any house that you've purchased, you know, take a look, make a list. I don't like the faucet. I don't like the way it works. I don't like the sink. Maybe you want a single sink rather than a double sink. You know, take a look at that. The cheapest thing also to fix and change out in a house is a toilet, believe it or not.
Okay, I'm surprised.
Yeah. And lots of people keep toilets that are old or don't like. The first thing I do is I change the toilets out in a house because they're very inexpensive. And I like comfort height toilets, which are the higher height toilet. I don't like the lower ones, which is what older homes come with. So I want the higher height toilet. It's called comfort height. I like the elongated, not the round. It's very easy to change toilets out. You just have to have a plumber look at it and tell you what it is to be replaced.
You know, it's funny how we think about things, but you know, the toilet's a larger item. So the perception is, wow, that's going to be expensive. You know, I'll do the faucets because they're smaller and cheaper. It's the reverse of that, I would imagine. You know,
it's actually, a toilet's probably going to be cheaper than a plumbing fixture.
Yeah. Wow. So I love everything that you present. You are so plugged in, right down to manufacturers. Best way to locate you if somebody has a commercial space or just wants to pick your brain on something, if you have time, MSAinteriors.com, right?
That's it.
Yeah. Marcy, it's always fun talking with you. You make interior design just fun. You really do. Refreshing.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Always fun to talk to you.
Yeah, likewise.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.